if there's not another season. I'm just going to be honest.
I'm all for it. I already got my riot gear packed up.
Okay, so we obviously know what the show is about. So we want to kind of ask you guys what it means to you guys, what you're trying to convey to people that aren't really sure about it. So we're fans of Lord of the Rings. We're fans of the fantasy spectrum. How are we going to get people to watch it that aren't going to give it a chance on that alone?
Well, I always say this. I have a brother who's a football coach, and he is as far away from the Lord of the Rings, the typical Lord of the Rings fan as you could be. And he obviously is tuned in because he loves his sister, and he loves the show because it's about the themes of overcoming adversity and being a hero of your own life and standing up for leadership and truth. And all of those values for both parents, for us as individuals, they matter. And they're I always like to say it's the most like American dream show that you can find. And so I think that the key is to pull in people that think, oh, that's for those people. To say, no, this is for everyone. This is about, if you ever left a movie theater and said, boy, I want to be in that movie, or you ever thought, like, if I could only be Superman, or any of those things, that's everyone.
Right.
And I think that it's important that, people tune in, and we see it all the time on Twitter, people going, I tuned in to kind of make fun of the show, and I love it.
Right, absolutely.
And I think that's the key. The key is to tell everybody that this is for everyone. It appeals, obviously, in a very core way to people that love fantasy and love gaming, etc. But it has human themes. Our contestants are wildly lovable no matter who you are. And we really wish people would take a chance on us because we think they'll love it.
And also, I think one of the core parts of this show, which people forget about, and what they forget about when you see Lord of the Rings, Guardians of the Galaxy, Star Wars, those types of movies, the reason they're so big is because I think what Jane said too is people tune in and they go, I was expected to hate this, and wow, I'm really caught into it. All those movies at their core have to do with the human spirit. Right. And that's really what this show is about. This show is about the human spirit. One of the first 4 words that we hear in our lives are once upon a time. And we kind of go through life with that once upon a time aspect, and we kind of lose it in our teens and then in our 20s. And here's this show that all of a sudden allows you to play in your imagination, to have a good time, and to sort of follow the human spirit, which is every one of us wants to be a hero. Every one of us wants to just get away from it all and live an adventure, whether it's vicariously through someone else by going to see a movie like Guardians of the Galaxy or Lord of the Rings, or whether it's actually living that fantasy, which is what we did with TheQuest. So it's about the human spirit, and I think that what you see so vehemently with this show is you see the human spirit in people like you guys in our fan base, and sort of how we attached ourselves to this show because we're fans of the genre and we're geeks ourselves, and that's why we're doing it for every person out there, because that's why we love talking online. That's why we love being in the Twitterverse. We really do enjoy hearing back what we want to hear ourselves. So it's about the human spirit.
Right. That's great. One of the things that I've liked about it from the beginning is the little snippet of you guys in the title. I think that's incredibly important because I'm a Full Metal Jousting fan. I'm not sure if you guys knew about that show when it existed, but I've got a lot of people from that show that are looking at these things overly critical. Like, you can't get out there with day-to-day ordinary people, putting them in 80 pounds of armor and all this other stuff. So I'm trying to convey to them, dude, it's about the spirit. It's not about whether they have 80 pounds of armor on. One of the things that Gigi and I have talked about over and over again is the paladins. Right. Like, I've watched a lot of reality TV, unfortunately, and they have the most heart that I've ever seen in my life. Even afterwards, because I know you guys filmed last year at some time.
Yes.
Last year, okay. So even now, like, they still carry on that, or they seem on Twitter to carry on that love for each other and that devotion to what they were going there to do in the first place. So I wanted to know if you could talk about the casting, because it's a very diverse cast, and I applaud you guys for that, because in America, especially today, you see the same people every season after every season. And one of the things, I talk a lot, I'm sorry.
Hi, are you a Libra?
I'm a Virgo, actually.
Close enough. Libra and Virgo, welcome to the talk.
I'll get to the point. What I love about it is you don't have to, and maybe you do, so if you do write drama into it, let me know. But a lot of these shows have to write drama in because the contestants are so uninteresting, quite frankly.
Right.
So I just want to know if you can give us a peek into what you guys were looking for.
Sure. I mean, it started, the whole goal of the show was pretty much what you're seeing. We posited that if you took real people and put them into a world like that they've only dreamt of, and they always thought of themselves as being heroes, that our belief was that they would become heroes by putting them into the world. And so when we went out to cast, we sat with the casting people and we all talked about, we want to see people who are individuals, who believe in themselves but maybe don't get a chance to prove it all the time. People that have an imagination, that love the world that we were going to put them in. And we were really lucky. I mean, I gotta say, it was thousands of people, and then we saw hundreds of people, and we culled it down to tens of people for the network. The network executives that we were working with, Rob Mills and John Sadeh, were very like-minded, which helped us a lot. We all wanted it to be diverse. We wanted it to look like the world we live in. So we're really proud of, we're so glad that you noticed the inclusion aspect of it, because we're super proud of that. But we also it was really the best people for the job. And each one of them, all 12 of them, are heroes in our minds. And we knew that they would prove to themselves that they are heroes as well.
Did you want to weigh in, Rob, or?
Yeah, I mean, I think you said something interesting where you said, we shot a year ago, yet they're all still friends, they're all still talking to each other. I think when people go through a really amazing experience, and sometimes when they go through a very trying or scary experience, you sort of have this bond that forms. And they really did form this bond because, like Jane said, you spend your whole life wishing that you could show everybody you're a hero or to just live that fantasy. And then all of a sudden you go away with 11 other people and you do that. You all have something that you've done that no one else has ever done before. And that's sort of what happens in experiences like this. The other thing that we always say is that this is the most real reality show you'll ever see. We didn't force any story. We didn't allow for any story to be forced because what we wanted was a completely immersive environment for them. So what our job was to create a fantasy world that really came to life around them. It would be like what we didn't want was, you don't get on the Haunted Mansion ride at Disney World and halfway through it someone comes out and says, now you should be scared, look scared and do this and do that. You're in an immersive environment. You're going into a ride and hopefully everything that's around you, the ghosts and the way that the house is created, makes you have that experience. And that's what we did. We put them into a castle with no running water and no electricity. We put them out in 70 acres
no running water.
Away from everything. They wanted to be there. We wanted them to have an immersive environment. And so therefore, we didn't play with how the story was going to go. We already had a story. We had a mythology that they just had to follow along with, and they did. And they created their own part of this amazing sort of magical story.
Now,
yeah, I mean, pretty much. And the one thing I will also say is that we always, for the last year, they've been in their own little pod, and it's like being members of the show Lost, right? They came back to the real world and they're like, it's more fun back in Everrealm. And they looked at each other to talk about it because honestly, we didn't even have that experience. We wish we did, but we were the, making sure everything around them was working well. They had a really unique experience that they want for the rest of their lives. And it was, we say this with such pride, it was totally transformative for them. And honestly, I will say, just as a corollary to that, you guys, the fans, and the experience that you all are having is totally transformative for us.
Yeah,
Because
absolutely.
we had hoped. I remember the night before production, I looked at Mark and I was like, this could be a total disaster. But at least we'll change people's lives.
Right.
And then when we were going into the release, I said, well, hopefully we will influence and change some of our viewers' lives. And it's been totally, it actually chokes me up a little bit, totally rewarding to watch you guys, write in and say, oh, I picked up my art again, or I'm doing stuff I haven't never done before, or I'm on the Paladin workout regime, or whatever it is. It's very heartening for us because we wanted this to be about finding your inner hero, and the fact that that's translated for 3 million people is so wonderful.
I think it's so beautiful how a lot of times as geeks we get isolated, and this show, I don't know, my personal Twitter has increased tremendously just from becoming friends with the viewers. Because you find people in genres, especially we live in North Carolina, in case you can't tell by the accent. And so
I didn't notice, it was so subtle.
Trying to find, kindred spirits among your day-to-day people is hard. And I've cried every episode, I'm just going to be honest. I mean,
True, by the way.
it's just one of those things where you believe each of those people and their hearts and their courage and their bravery and their kinsmanship. What other show's doing that? No other show.
Right.
Did you have anything you wanted to say? I feel like I'm monopolizing this.
I'm more the behind the scenes type of gal. I wanted to know, you've already answered my questions about the storyline and everything like that, but I wanted to know about costuming. Where do you guys find the costumes, props, locations, and stuff like that?
Well, I'll start with costuming. I think when we set out to create this show, there was a show on many years ago that sort of tried to combine hybrid and scripted, and it didn't work. And I think part of the reason it didn't work was because they were taking very handsome people and sticking them in very traditional.
Even though the
Right.
Paladins are all gorgeous.
They are.
They're just no matter what, but it's like, they were taking models and sticking, a very sort of Halloween costume on them and saying, you're a pirate. Well, that doesn't work. You actually have to create a texture and you have to create layers to it. It's the difference between going to a carnival and seeing a bunch of rides and going to Disney World and seeing actually layers upon layers of things that are built, houses with rooms that you can see. So we sort of took texture across the whole board, and we said, okay, costumes have to be really, really structured, and they have to feel authentic, and they need to be aged. And so we had two amazing costume designers, Zizi and Yushi out of Austria, and we were allowed to use costumes from the Austrian opera and theater productions and things where they said, literally, I have to give super credit to the Austrian opera because they said to us, you can do whatever you want to these costumes, age them, because the more you age them, the better they look on our stages.
Oh, right.
So we did that. And then when it came to the castle, we looked at it. My producing partner, Michael, he went and looked at 1,500 castles online. And a lot of these castles you see have a McDonald's built next door. So, when you watch something like, I don't know if you guys are watching Outlander on Stars right now, but that castle I love that show so much. That castle is beautiful, and we looked at that castle, but it's literally right next door to a road that's right next door to a city. And you can't, when you're putting somebody in an immersive environment, you can't have next door hearing, do you want fries with that shape?
Right.
So what we did was we looked at all these castles, and we found this one castle in Austria that was in the middle of nowhere. Like I said, no running water, no electricity. So that was yet another layer of texture. And then we had a production designer, his name is Stuart Purcell. He was so good in the show, and that everything he created, he did all those scorpion bows, and every challenge you see, he really gave sort of the authenticity of of the feeling of things and the texture. Our paladins ate on terracotta plates, and they didn't have water bottles. They had terracotta cups of water, and we wore costumes on set. If we needed to be on set for something to watch something happen, we were in full costume. And all of our producers for the segments that all of the challenge segments, they were in costume all the time. So wherever they looked, they got to see texture. They got to see dirty, dirt-covered extras, and we had 200 and something extras, and animals, and horses, and the horses shit, and we were like, great, horses, they're shitting, let them go clean it up. It's like, that was what we wanted, that complete textural environment. Did I even answer your question?
Yes, completely, thank you.
I
And
love
wait till you watch tonight, and tonight's really fun because you'll start seeing the scale of everything we're doing is getting bigger and bigger, and so it's 2 hours of amazing visuals. So we'll have fun.
I love that it's on for 2 hours, first of all. When we end this, we're going to go through the hotel and make sure everybody tunes in. You might believe that or not, but it will happen. One of the things I love about it is you breathed life into that area. And I think that's another important thing for people to realize is when you undertake something like this, you're employing people and giving people an opportunity. And that's a beautiful combination. Like those halls need to be walked through again, and the people that the actors, they're amazing. They've been forming amazing relationships with people here. I just think that's beautiful, and it's something other shows don't do either. So, more kudos.
A lot of that goes to sort of how we are as producers as well. Like, we always say, and Mark and Jane we're like peas in a pod, all of us. We don't yell on set. We don't. We encourage creativity. We encourage people to bring stuff that we didn't think about. We're not egoists, and we're not sitting there saying, no, it's my way or the highway. So I think when you see that, the actors felt like they were part of a community as opposed to just an employee on a production. So they really are, they're very involved. I'm sure you've seen all the waffle stuff going around.
Not at all.
That came from a conversation that the Grand Vizier was having at 5 o'clock in the morning with one of the fans. So, we sort of created this little community that's now getting bigger and bigger and bigger, and having people like you to be so, it was very disheartening this week in seeing how many interruptions we had with football. So this interview couldn't have happened at a better time because you're the reason we do this show. You're the fan, you're the person and people that we look at and we go, you know what? 3 million people are watching it. We wish it was 10 million, but those 3 million that are watching it,